As promised in the first video, here is the next 3 rules. Okay, I believe the assignment only covers the first 2, but I could be wrong on that. Again, make sure you're writing these down. Write these down, not on the same page as do the examples maybe, but over with the first 2 rules from the first video. Whatever works for you, but you're going to want to refer back to these as you do your assignments and you take your quizzes and tests. So please have them somewhere that you can read them, understand them, know what to do with them, etc. So product of powers, and again, you know, a lot of these are just kind of fancy names, and I apologize that they're might not make any sense, but product of powers property. So what that means is that if you have 2 of the same base, so the same base would be they're both A's, or here they're both 4's. Okay, so if you had x to the second times x to the third, so that's the same base, they're both x's, right? So this doesn't work if you had x squared times y to the third, okay? Because those are not the same bases, so you can't do that, okay? I'm thinking of it as kind of like terms. So if you're multiplying the bases, so if the x's are being multiplied, okay, then you're going to add your exponents. So you would end up with x to the 5th. Okay, so I will say that again. If you have 2 bases that are the same, so x to the 3rd times x to the 6th, okay, so your bases are the same, then you add your exponents. So that would equal x to the 9th. I can add. Now, in a similar fashion, we've got this quotient power of powers property. Okay, so we'll call this number 3 and this is number 4. So quotient, if you don't remember this from like 2nd grade, that's division. Okay, so we're going to divide our powers, meaning we have a fraction. Okay, so in this case, if we have x to the 6th over x to the 2nd, again, same base, so we gotta both be x's. That's supposed to be the 2nd, there we go. Then you would subtract the exponents. Okay, so 6 minus 2, so that's going to give us x to the 4th. Okay, when we're doing this, because we're subtracting, we could end up with negative exponents, and then you got to go back to that rule that we learned on the last video about negative exponents. We'll have an example of that though. Okay, and then power of a power is when we take a power, so something that already has a power, so x to the 3rd, and then we raise that whole thing to the 2nd power. So then we take our exponents and we multiply them, so x to the 6th. So I will say that again, and we're going to do more of that in the next video. But I will say it again. Actually, let me erase some of this. So say we have x to the 4th raised to the power of 3. So we're going to take the 3rd power of that whole thing in x in our parentheses, right? So then we're going to take our exponents and multiply them. So 4 times 3 is 12, so we've got x to the 12th. Let's do some examples. So here we've got our 3's are being multiplied. Okay, so we're not actually doing anything with our 3's. We're going to keep our 3, but we're going to add our exponents and get 8. So I don't really want to use the opposite, but it's kind of counterintuitive maybe, that if you're multiplying here, you're adding your exponents. Here we have the same base, -4, and we're dividing, right? We have a fraction. Don't forget that that really is a division bar. So we're going to take our exponents and subtract them. So we've got -4, and 2 minus 7 is -5. okay? But we can't have negative exponents. We need to have positive exponents. And we know, because we've already learned it, that if we have a negative exponent, we're going to take that buddy there and put it on the bottom of a fraction, since it's not already a fraction, and say -4 to the positive fifth. Okay, so we're starting to combine our rules, which is where we will get by the end of these videos. Okay, it's combining lots of the rules, and it's going to be a headache, but we can do it. Okay, so we're going to slowly learn and practice our rules before we put them all together. Excuse me. And then here, we've got a power z to the power of 4, and then the whole thing is raised to the power of -3. So we've got power of a power, which means we need to multiply those exponents. So we're going to get z to the -12th. And again, just like we did here, whoops, I don't know why my pen keeps not working, to the -12th. And then we need to notice, oh wait, we've got a negative exponent. We can't do that. So we need to take it, move it down, make it into a fraction, and have z to the +12. The negative exponents are kind of the most confusing because, well, one, we really don't like fractions. But two, because where do we move it? There wasn't a fraction, now there is a fraction, and that's weird. But we'll do this slowly together and figure it out. Oops. Okay, so starting with A, we've got our bases are the same. Okay, that's you need to make sure you're noticing that for when we start putting these things together, because we will have different bases. Okay, so 2 to the 3rd power times 2 to the 5th power, we're multiplying, which means we need to add our exponents, so we get 2 to the 8th power. Notice our base doesn't change. We still have that 2. Just our exponents because we added them together. Now here we're going to end up with, we've got two bases, right, that are the same, so, and we're dividing, we're quotient, we have a fraction, so we end up with 2 minus 4, which is -2, so we've got -7 to the -2 power, okay, but we have a negative exponent, so we need to take it, move it down, put it under 1, and we've got -7 to the 2nd power positive now. Okay, once you move it, you take the negative off of the exponent. Not the negative off of the 7, the negative off of the exponent. Okay. Oh, and by the way, on these ones that are just numbers, you don't need to like put it in your calculator and figure out that 2 to the 8th power is 100, I don't know what it is. Anyway, 48, no, I don't know. Anyway, so you leave it like this. You don't need to actually figure out the answer for me. Okay. And then here, on this last C, we have d to the -3rd to the -5th. So this whole thing is being taken to the 5th power. So we've got power of a power, which means we're going to multiply those two guys together, get d to the -15. Oh, wait, that's negative, right? So we're going to take that, move it, and we get 1 over d to the 15th power. Please, please, please ask questions in chat. I know these aren't easy, and in your assignment we start to put more of them together, and I know you're going to have questions. Please ask them. You are not the only one with the question, I promise. You might be the only one willing to ask it, though, so please ask. And we'll see you in class.